Hi, I'm Jay Mitchell, Sioux Empire Market President at First Interstate Bank, where we proudly put communities first by supporting Feeding South Dakota's mission to end hunger. Hunger affects every corner of our state, and our team is committed to being part of the solution, whether that's by volunteering or using our resources to make a lasting impact. This September, in celebration of Hunger Action Month, we encourage you to join the fight against hunger with a donation, and we'll double the impact with a match. Let's build stronger communities together. Go to feedingsouthdakota.org and make a gift today, because no one should go hungry.
Why give to Feeding South Dakota instead of give to the local food pantry at your church or the places in your community that you see that are helping provide food or give access to food? Why give to Feeding South Dakota instead of directing your dollars there?
I don't think it's an either or. I think it's a both and. It's important that funds go to our partner agencies and to other nonprofits because there are expenses that they need to cover that Feeding South Dakota can't help with that passing through. Gifts to Feeding South Dakota help make an impact on the entire state. When gifts come to Feeding South Dakota, we can purchase more that we can then pass through to our partner agencies, which in that case is a great reason to donate to Feeding South Dakota.
I can go down to the grocery store and I can buy a box of cereal for $6, but through Feeding South Dakota, I can get a stack of boxes of cereal. That helped them really understand that having the dollars for those partners is helpful, but also if we're not here, they don't have that type of access to the food. They're buying at the grocery store and they can't do as much either. Welcome back to 50 Faces of Feeding South Dakota. It's my favorite month to be talking about Hunger Action Month. Thank you for joining us as we spread awareness and really make a splash this month. We're talking today with Megan Chose, our Chief Development Officer. And Megan, I'm going to start by tossing it over to you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Perfect. Well, I get to lead the fundraising and volunteer teams here at Feeding South Dakota. I've been here for 4 years now. And just what I love about my job is that I feel like we get to see our donors and partners at our best, is what I like to say. Whether people are giving their first gift, their largest gift, dollars raised from their birthday, we get to see people at their best. So that's what I love about working here at Feeding South Dakota.
So what's your background experience in, I'm going to say fundraising. Development isn't always fundraising. I mean, it's bringing dollars in, but it's not like your typical fundraising. But what's your background a little bit that brought you into the position of Chief Development Officer?
Most of my background is in fundraising. I started out in event and campaign planning and just kept moving right along and have been doing fundraising ever since.
And you're here in Sioux Falls with us.
Yeah.
Of course, that's where we're headquartered. So today we're going to talk about, last week we talked to Claire and had great opportunity to talk about what Hunger Action Month is, how we use it to elevate our movement. And kind of talk more on a national level, sharing about food insecurity on the rise and all the things that food banks are facing. And so today what we're going to dive into, of course, with you here is ways to give or how to support the food bank. And so let's kind of start with how are we funded? I think that's something that people assume they know, but also find surprising sometimes when that question is answered.
Yeah. Feeding South Dakota and a lot of food banks, a majority of our fundraising is from individuals and is private funding. So at Feeding South Dakota, we are majority privately funded. So our team is bringing in dollars one by one, coffee meeting after coffee meeting, check presentation by check presentation. And so because we're privately funded, we are fundraising throughout the year for our program. So we, at this time, are not federally funded or state funded. We're not a line item on any of those budgets. And so our team is fundraising through individuals, corporations, and foundations for the majority of our funds raised.
So I think that's an important distinction, that when we say we're privately funded, it's not just people. It's other places. It's just not coming through those, it might be a community foundation, but it's not coming through like the federal dollars or the taxpayer dollars.
Yep.
Although we do get some food.
Although we do get some food through that way.
It's a great clarification in this day and age. So if you're an individual or a business owner or an employee, and you want to give, today we're going to tell you how to do that.
Absolutely.
So let's start with individual giving. If I, as an individual, want to support the food bank, tell me about the ways in which we cultivate those relationships.
We, as an individual, we have a lot of ways that folks can engage in giving to Feeding South Dakota. We'll always take one-time donations, cash check, whatever that might look like. One of the really great ways that we can count on continued revenue is through our 605 Meal Makers group. So that's our monthly giving group. You can give at $5, you can give $500, whatever the amount is meaningful to you. But that's a really great way that we have ongoing revenue. And when we go to budget, that's what the first place that we start with, because it's revenue that we can essentially count
You're
on.
counting on it, yeah.
Yeah. And those groups are really just a great, I guess, base to a fundraising program, because they're sometimes your most loyal supporters and people that see the need for ongoing revenue. And so that 605 Meal Makers group is a really great program. And this year you can get a 50th anniversary sticker. That's our 605 Meal Makers group. So
This year only.
the stickers are your thing. This year's the day to give.
You heard it first here. No. So you said something, though, that I think is really important to push in on, and that's, it doesn't matter if it's $5 or $50 or $500, your gift makes a difference.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So our team fundraises about $7.5 million every year for our organization. There are other revenue streams that come into our annual operating fund. But because we're raising $7.5 million in a state, with fewer people than Texas or, just other larger
Right.
states, we're doing that dollar by dollar. And so truly, it sounds a bit cliche, but truly every dollar counts. And that's the way that we're able to get to $7.5 million each year, is because every single person, every church group, every, whatever your group is bringing
Right.
dollars to Feeding
Right.
South Dakota at different amounts. And that truly makes it a difference when we don't have those line items at a state or a federal level, or those, just those huge donations that are coming to our organization.
And one of the things too is that dollar amount, because of our purchasing power, which we talked about way back in the podcast at the way beginning when we talked with Brian, our inventory manager, we can do so much with that dollar. I mean, can, what you can buy a jar of spaghetti sauce at the grocery store, we can buy 6 or 8.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure, but you get the point, right? And so if $10 is what you can give right now, that $10 helps us provide food for 30 meals. And, I remember before I worked here receiving some of the direct mail pieces and thinking, well, I could give $20 here, which is $20, or I can give it to Feeding South Dakota, and I'm going to help that many more people. And that, that truly is a great way to take what you have and just really drive it home.
Yeah. I think another point to add on to that is that we not only can we do so much, but we're really thoughtful and we're really, I guess, just really honed in on how we're using dollars. So for every dollar that's donated to Feeding South Dakota, 93 cents is going straight to the programs. So we're budgeting that way to make sure that the most out of every dollar is going straight to our programs and being utilized for the mission to feed our neighbors across the state. And so that's something that I'm really proud of to tell people when I'm meeting with them to talk about donations to Feeding South Dakota.
Right.
It's because that's really not common to be able to put so much back into the programs. There's always going to be overhead and things like that for any organization, but we are really thoughtful about the way that we budget so that so much of each dollar is going back to the mission and to the programs.
And I really think that comes from having passionate people in this work, our leadership, our team, our board, our donors. I mean, everybody is passionate about this work that we're doing. And so we want to make sure we're good stewards, that we're using our money wisely. But, it also really comes from just that desire to make a difference and make an impact and make sure that we can continue to do this and being able to tell people that it's good business.
It is. And I think we live in a great state, and people want to keep that going. And you don't want to hear that South Dakota has some of the poorest counties in the nation. And so I think our donors are really passionate about continuing to make South Dakota a better place, a better place to live, a better place to work. And that starts with food. And so I'm grateful to work with the donors that we have, because we've got a tribe of of really passionate donors around us.
So there's other unique ways that an individual can give. And I'm going to tell you right now, like, this is where I don't want to say I tune out, but my knowledge just doesn't
Your
seem to
eyes gloss
stretch
over.
into. Yeah. And so donor advised funds or giving of stocks and bonds. Is that a common thing? How?
Yeah, probably more common than someone might think. I kind of put that into the other category. You can give as a person, you can give as a business or an organization, and you can give others.
Like that.
I would say all those other things in that category they can be as simple or as technical as you want them to be. But Feeding South Dakota will likely accept any kind of donation that's in that other category. Anything from stocks to, anything. I think when we talk about donor advised funds, that's a really great example and an avenue of giving that's increasing for younger generation. But again, it's as simple or as savvy as you want it to be. And really, we've got some great partners in our regions. Our community foundations throughout the state do a great job at that, whether your eyes gloss over or you are tuned into
Somebody
it.
knows how.
Somebody knows how to do that. And we've got great partners to do that across the state.
So, so then another thing that has a way of giving, and maybe not necessarily an immediate impact, and it is a difficult thing to talk about. It's an awkward thing to talk about. Is planned giving.
Yeah.
So, bequesting to Feeding South Dakota a portion of your legacy, and being able to say, I want this to support your work, but it really doesn't come to fruition until I've passed away. How popular? How often do you run into that?
Popular isn't maybe the right.
How often do you run into that? And is there a driving factor for individuals who choose that planned giving?
Yeah, I would say all those the gifts that we previously talked about, whether it's those are all now gifts that we like to talk about. So giving now, making an impact for the mission right now. That planned gift, we like to talk about that it's the future. So whether you have the dollars now to give, that might not be the case for everybody.
Right.
Many people don't have those dollars right now to be able to give.
They're spending it to live.
Absolutely. And so then that planned gift is a great way to make an impact. We often see that volunteers that's a big way of giving as a volunteer, because many volunteers are giving of their time, and that's a treasure. Your time is a treasure. And so many volunteers see that as their giving, but then they've become so passionate about the organization and been here 3-4 days a week with us. And then at the end of their life, that estate gift is a meaningful way for them to share their treasures with Feeding South Dakota. So I don't know necessarily about popularity, but is a really impactful and meaningful gift for somebody to make. And again, it can be as simple or as complex as you want to make it. And we have great partners, great lawyers, great advisors across the state that can help make that decision, make that plan set up.
And there too, it doesn't have to necessarily be somebody who's accumulating wealth in their lifetime. Right. It can be, if you're just working on paying off your house Absolutely. And you feel like you're going to have that done and you want to give a portion of that estate or something like that.
Yeah. And it's again, it can be complex, and you can go through an advisor, you can go through a lawyer, but freewill.com is a free way to make that will. And right in there, you can select Feeding South Dakota as the beneficiary. And so I hope that there are a lot of great ways for people to make that designation and to make an impact, whether it's now, whether it's later. I know when my husband and I went through that process, I'm in fundraising, and I was like, gosh, this sounds horrible to go sit
a lot.
through an estate meeting, but it really is simple. At the end of the day, whatever's left over, it will be solved, and it can go right to the organizations that you love.
So we've talked about the financial ways an individual can give, but you mentioned volunteering. And when you head to our website, there's a ways to give page, and volunteering is one of the ways to give. And you mentioned that it's a treasure, because it is. For some people, it is what they can give right now. And we see it even happen at mobile distributions or a Thanksgiving distribution, where people will get out of their cars and say, can I help load food in cars until my vehicle has come, through the line. And so everybody is happy, to participate and give in that way. And we have, to your point, some long-term volunteers or regular volunteers who come in who are retired and they want to stay active and they want to socialize and they come in and volunteer. And so this is my quick plug for that because you probably know this better off the top of your head, but the 26 FTEs, 28 FTEs, I think was the equivalent. And we just can't afford to hire at that level, but we also would not be able to move the amount of food that we do if it weren't for those volunteers.
Absolutely. We're definitely volunteer-led at Feeding South Dakota. We have a great team and a great staff that is the bones of this organization, but the hands and the outreach is because of our volunteers. We could not hire and fundraise for 28 additional employees and keep that sustained. And we could not be in all the places that we are without our volunteers. Right. We couldn't be in a mobile distribution, multiple times a day across the state in different communities if it weren't for our volunteers.
And it's not just loading food and packing food. We've got some unique opportunities out there to help with in other ways, whether it's covering the front desk for a staff member to be on PTO or out for an appointment or support the accounting team. And so people who might want to use their unique skill sets could have an opportunity to support the mission too through that volunteer work.
We've really tried to become better at that. When I started, we wanted to really look at how and what can people bring to the team. So we had feedback that said, I can't stand for 3 hours and I can't lift the heavy boxes, which was great feedback. And so our team has gotten really great at finding other ways that people can use their talents. Like you mentioned, even down to for those that are great at finance, not us, but others that are great at it. Can come and help our finance team and grow what that team is doing, helping with paperwork, helping with front desk coverage, like you mentioned, really just being places that our staff then can be in other places. Right. And again, it just expands our reach that we're able to have.
I've been in the pack line a couple times, and I have to tell you the thing I appreciate the most is that when in the orientation, they typically say, okay, the last people in line have to do it's heavy, but that box is heavy. So you're going to do the heavy lifting and the heavy stacking. So, because you're right, there are some physical limitations that prevent people from doing that. And so then they think they can't volunteer. So that was an important thing to touch on. Okay. So individual giving, but we have a lot, we're supported by businesses. We're supported by, other organizations like churches you mentioned, but maybe youth groups or, and I say youth groups, I'm thinking, I don't know why I'm going to like FFA or, but those types of things that do food drive or raise dollars or, do some sort of fun event in order to support Feeding South Dakota. So talk a little bit about why those are important to our work.
The big thing with those groups is when those groups come to us, whether it's, maybe a bank or those groups that you mentioned, all of those folks might be coming just because they were invited as part of an organization. They get to maybe skip work for a couple of hours and they might have signed up. But the impact that we're able to show them when they're done and we're writing how many backpacks they packed, how many families they were able to serve, hopefully we can turn those volunteers that came once with the organization into another volunteer. Hopefully we can turn those volunteers into donors. We've even had volunteers that turn into staff members at Feeding South Dakota or vice versa. We've had staff that needed to part ways and came back as a volunteer or went to school and came back as a volunteer as they could. And so I think that I hope that our volunteer program turns those volunteers into activators for our program and for our mission because they feel that they had a really big impact. And I think that's the impact that coming with an organization and volunteering has for folks.
So you talked about check presentations, and we do a lot of check presentations, and they're all very important. And we've had super fun ones, and we've had super quick ones, and there's been a lot of different types of check presentations. But we're really fortunate to be supported across the state by some businesses, and I'm not going to start throwing them out because
you'll miss somebody.
I'll miss somebody, and also I don't want anybody to steal them. But when you talk about businesses, they can support the work in many different ways. They can they can just provide dollars. They can take it even further and match funds that their team members give, or do the fun things like wear jeans on Friday for $5 to Feeding South Dakota. Do you see when you look at the split of kind of the pie chart of our donors, where does businesses and corporations fit into that? Is it a third, a half? That's all the math I can do.
So that's where it ends. That's where the examples end. So individuals make up a majority of our donor base. Okay. But I think what I found and learned in this role is that food banks were created a direct mail program. Mm-hmm. And that's really how fundraising for food banks got started, and isn't different here at Feeding South Dakota. So because that direct mail program is so robust, majority of our donors is individuals for that reason at Feeding South Dakota. So I would say corporations is about 20 to 30% based on that giving coming from individuals for the majority of it. And you're right, we have so many great supporters across the state, whether they're individuals or businesses and organizations. And those organizations and businesses give so many different ways. Grants, one-time gifts, like you mentioned, maybe they jump on for an entire month to sponsor gifts and match gifts.
That's a spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Pay attention. Or not a spoiler alert. What do they call it?
A little tease.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm drawing a blank.
Easter eggs.
Easter egg.
Taylor
Thank
Swift.
you.
Easter
Thank
you. Yeah. So we really are. We're really fortunate that I think South Dakotans and Midwesterners care about their neighbors, and that truly shows up in our fundraising program.
So that's a good segue into why give to Feeding South Dakota instead of give to the local food pantry at your church, or the places in your community that you see that are helping provide food or give access to food. Why give to Feeding South Dakota instead of directing your dollars there?
I don't think it's an either or. I think it's a both and. I think it's important that funds go to our partner agencies and to other nonprofits because there are expenses that they need to cover that Feeding South Dakota can't help with that passing through. Gifts to Feeding South Dakota help make an impact on the entire state. So you mentioned earlier our buying power that we have. Because when gifts come to Feeding South Dakota, we can purchase more that we can then pass through to our partner agencies, which in that case is a great reason to donate to Feeding South Dakota. But I think it's a both and. I think dollars to our partner agencies and other organizations are so important, but dollars to Feeding South Dakota are really important because we are a lot of the backbone and the structure to the food security and food safety net across the state. And a lot of it is back to, you've talked about it on the podcast, that our relationships and the structure that's already been set up because of the Feeding America Network and the buying power, all that comes with that. We're fortunate enough to have because we're a partner of Feeding America. So I guess, it's a both and.
Just a couple weeks ago, I had a conversation on the podcast with Governor's Grocery in Pierre. And after we were off the podcast, Hope made such a great comment. And we were both like, oh, we should have talked about that. But I wanted to, talk a little bit more to make that point. She said, I can go down to the grocery store and I can buy a box of cereal for $6. But through Feeding South Dakota, I can get a stack of boxes of cereal. And that just really, when she tells people that, when she's out in the community and having conversation, that helped them really understand that it is better to give instead of food drives are great, and food drives help us, fill some of our programs. And so I would never want to discourage that, but really, having the dollars for those partners is helpful. But also, if we're not here, they don't have that type of access to the food. They're buying at the grocery store and they can't do as much either. So I think that's just kind of another driving factor for giving at this level.
Right.
What about like foundations?
I would say foundations are really similar to businesses and organizations. We have a lot of great partners and supporters in that way. A lot of different types of gifts that come, whether it's a grant, whether it's a one-time gift. And so we have a grant writer on our team who's really great about getting our name out there and applying for programs and through foundations. So I would kind of put it in that business and organization group based on how we structure as a team and organization. But again, really across the state, wonderful foundation supporters. And I think the difference about foundations is marketing buckets change at organizations with leadership, but I think a lot of times what's set up with foundations is a passion for a certain organization. And so I would say that's the differing factor that I see between organizations and foundations.
Right.
With people and preferences at organizations, that sometimes can change. But I think foundations, a lot of them, at least most of them that we work with, really stick to a certain mission.
Right. Or a core value, value that drives their culture at their office. So we think about South Dakota, and we're sitting here in Sioux Falls, and Rapid City and Pierre are where our other distribution centers are located. I've been on the drive out to Ipswich, South Dakota. Beautiful country, very, very rural. And again, we've had conversation about rural, but when it comes to giving, you may be getting in that rural area our direct mail that you talked about. And when you give your gift, it comes back here. But it supports those rural places that don't have the ability to self-sustain that funding, but still need that access to that food. Is that fair to say?
It is. I think that's, again, one of those ways that we're savvy with dollars is we have structured so that our corporate office is here in Sioux Falls. And that just comes, gifts come here, but we don't have multiple gifts processors. We have one who's stationed here in Sioux Falls, and so we're not paying multiple staff members. But if you're looking at, yes, the travel route of a donation, it is coming back to Sioux Falls, but we're dispersing that back through our programs across the state.
All 66 counties.
All 66 counties.
Throw that in there. Well, it's Hunger Action Month, and all month long we're going to be, I hope we're making a splash everywhere that people are seeing us. But really talking about ways to join the fight against hunger. And this is a really big way, especially with a $7.5 million fundraising goal. What impact does Hunger Action Month have on your work and your ability to achieve your goal within the team?
I think Hunger Action Month amplifies the message that our team is trying to have any given month throughout the year. But I think when you have a network of Feeding America food banks having the same conversation, talking the same talking points, it just amplifies the message that we have here at Feeding South Dakota. I think hopefully it also, to your point, through the splash that we hope we're having, it brings new eyes to what we're doing. Hopefully people see the matches and opportunities to give, or even volunteer opportunities, things like that. And I hope they also see the partner agencies that we're connected with. I hope they see that through, as we're talking about all the different ways and structure of Feeding South Dakota throughout this month, I hope they see the network that's our partner agencies and the connection to those groups as well. Because we wouldn't get to the end user of our guest if those partner agencies weren't helping transfer the food, I guess, from food bank to guest. So I would say Hunger Action Month amplifies the message that we try to have year round.
The awareness alone. And then, so back to that Easter egg. One of the great things about Hunger Action Month is that we have continuously, in the years that I've been here, had a match. And this year we have First Interstate Bank matching those dollars. And so as we're building this awareness and as we're out there saying, hey, come give to Feeding South Dakota, donations double in impact.
They do. I haven't cried many times. I'm not a big crier at work anyway. And First Interstate Bank got me. I think when you really see folks, when they surprise you with a check to talk about, to amplify donations to your organization, but then you see all the staff members who are passionate about our organization come back to volunteer. That was really, really exciting. And we're excited that all month long donations will be matched, because I hope that our impact through this month will be even bigger because we have a partner that's helping to spread that.
People are more likely to give when their dollar goes even further.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, the thing that you said, you're not a crier, and I've gotten emotional a couple times on the podcast. Whether people have picked up on that or not, I don't know. But for me, I wasn't there at the check presentation. But you shared your experience, and what really drove it home for me, that made me just feel so great about it, is it's an employee-driven donation. So an employee nominated us to a board or a group, a committee, to receive this generosity. And who knows how that employee came in contact with our work. And that to me is so meaningful because, again, I've said it so many times, but the passion for ending hunger, the passion for feeding our neighbors, the passion for being a part of this work is just so great. And it really is what sustains us.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there is a perk to get out of work to come and volunteer for a couple hours. That's a great perk.
And we have fun.
But it takes a lot to stop what you're doing in your day job or with your life and come out to volunteer at Feeding South Dakota. And we just have such a passionate group of volunteers, partners, donors that sustain this work and let us keep doing what we're doing.
Well, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
To share about ways that people can give as a way to be involved in Hunger Action Month. Again, a big shout out to First Interstate Bank for their match donation this month. Hunger Action Month, your dollar is going to go twice as far. So to Megan's point, whether it's $5, $50, or $500, we're going to be able to make twice the impact with the gifts that you give this month. So if you want to learn more about Hunger Action Month, about ways to get involved this month, or even if it's October before you can get here, head out to our website, feedingsouthdakota.org. There's a Hunger Action Month page right out there. It's going to give you all kinds of details. And then September 9th is Hunger Action Day. And so that's a great time to wear orange, or wear orange anytime this month because it's everybody's favorite color to wear, but it's also the color of hunger. So thanks for joining us today. We look forward to next week's conversation.